You are vast, you are powerful, and you are expansive. We have entire ecosystems in our body. And so I want you to imagine that. What if that is all it? Some people talk about the simulation. What if we're all in a simulation, right?
Mhm.
Well, what if we are the universe? And the reason why we seek the stars and black holes is really just to better understand the power we have within ourselves. And I believe that our external world is a reflection of our internal world. So know that your worth is innate and that even without being a mom, a sister, a brother, a partner, you have lungs that function, you have blood that runs through you, you create energy and change energy. You are fully functioning without any external forces at all. And so I like to do this visualization to help people understand your worth is innate. Even if you don't have that job or car or live in the house you want to live in, you are valuable and you are whole exactly as you are. Welcome to the Be Your Own Life Coach podcast, where you master your mind and coach your own comeback. You are the hero, you are the guide, and you will learn to architect your life from the inside. I'm your host, Bretagne Stowe, joined by my sister and co host, Anike Wilder. Enjoy the show. Are you going to kick us off?
Yes. I
Or I
couldn't,
can.
I didn't hear your clap, so I got confused. Okay. I saw it, but I didn't hear it, and my brain's like, wait, something's not matching. Okay. Anyway, oh my goodness, Britannia, I'm so excited about this episode and this entire series. We're going to talk about self-worth, self-esteem, and I so thrilled to talk about it. But I want to know your thoughts because people use these interchangeably all the time, self-worth and self-esteem, but they're different. So give me your definition and help us understand the difference between self-worth versus self-esteem.
Yes, Annika, I'm glad you brought this up because this is where I think we have to start is acknowledging that in our daily conversations, people do use these terms interchangeably, but they are different. Your self-worth is innate. Your worth is innate. You are enough, you are worthy, and there is nothing you can do to change it. Sorry, guys. You are worthy. It doesn't change from day to day or event to event. It is a constant and it is unconditional. Now, self esteem, on the other hand, does ebb and flow, and that's normal. That's okay. We're not always going to have super high self esteem. It's going to fluctuate, and it's dependent usually on how things go. It's linked to performance or achievements or approval, and it's not the same thing as self worth, right? Because your self worth is innate. You are worthy, but there is a part that is linked to your self esteem that does change.
Yes. And I agree completely. And I love that you broke it down like that because we say it so we use the same words, like those same self-worth and self-esteem interchangeably too often that they get mixed up, but they are different. And self-worth really comes back to remembering. Like you just have to remember where you came from, remember who you are. So tell me why this is so important to understand the difference between these two and why we shouldn't mix them up.
Yeah. Well, because if we have our self worth interchangeable with our self esteem, then when things don't go the way we plan, when we um, do have failure, when we are feeling like have not achieved or met our expectations, all of a sudden we are questioning our entire worthiness as a human. And that is where a lot of depression and anxiety comes from. And you don't need to suffer like that. And so I want to make sure people understand that no matter what, if you cheated on your husband, go back to an earlier episode, right, where we talked about that. You cheated on your husband, or you're in prison serving a 20-year sentence, or you didn't show up for work and you lost your job, right? From big to small, your worth is innate. And I think that's hard for some people to understand. But you as a human, you have value that people cannot take away. Now, your self esteem again does change. And so, if we understand that you can feel burnout and anxiety and perfectionism when you accidentally link your worth to your esteem, then you can start to break down and separate it and go, okay, so maybe I misidentifying my self worth and my self esteem. And so, first understanding that. And so I think it would be important to talk about how to build your self-worth. We'll get deeper into self-esteem, but your self-worth, you first need to, I always think of the 4 agreements. We talk about it all the time, right? Not take things so personally. Separate your identity. Separate your identity from your accomplishments, from your relationships. Anike, if you only saw yourself as a mother and a sister and a real estate agent, and then all of a sudden your kids were taken from you, your siblings were taken from you, your job was taken from you, is your worth intact?
No, not if you combine those, not if you rely your self-worth on those things. No, I would probably feel very lost. And I think there's a lot of people who do feel lost because they identify their self-worth with those titles, with those accomplishments, with those things that the world puts on them. And then of course they feel depressed, they feel lost. And unfortunately, it can even lead to suicide because people don't know who they are anymore. They don't see a life worth living because of those identities are stripped from them, and then they end their life. And it's one of the saddest things that I could ever think of, because suicide is 100% preventable. But this is a huge deal. Like, your worthiness of who you are does not change. And so we cannot put the weight of those external forces over the internal being.
Yes. And one of the ways that I want to emphasize that is, I think often we feel that we are a person on a planet in a universe. But I want you guys to take, instead of looking outwards into space, imagine the space is inside of you. Okay. So you're not just a person floating in space. You are the space. You are the universe. And every organ is a planet. Every bone is a moon. Every ligament and muscle is a star. And every cell is a part of that intricate part of your universe. You are vast, you are powerful, and you are expansive. We have entire ecosystems in our body. And so I want you to imagine that. What if that is all it? Some people talk about the simulation. What if we're all in a simulation, right?
Mhm.
Well, what if we are the universe? And the reason why we seek the stars and black holes is really just to better understand the power we have within ourselves. And I believe that our external world is a reflection of our internal world. So know that your worth is innate, and that even without being a mom, a sister, a brother, a partner, you have lungs that function, you have blood that runs through you, you create energy and change energy. You are fully functioning without any external forces at all. And so I like to do this visualization to help people understand your worth is innate. Even if you don't have that job or car or live in the house you want to live in, you are valuable and you are whole exactly as you are.
And I couldn't agree more. And this is something that's not original ideas. I mean, this is talked about in the 4 Agreements. It's talked about in Remembering Wholeness by Carol Tuttle. It's talked about philosophers for centuries. I mean, we are light and we are love. Like, if you strip us of our blood and our organs and our bones and our personalities and our experiences and our traumas, we are going to just be light and love. And that's who we really are deep inside. And that's how we need to, or what we need to remember. But for those that are so clouded with trauma, with low self-esteem that's overriding the self-worth, how do we help somebody remember all of these things that they really are just light and love. Because it's easy to say, hey, knock, 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 listen to yourself. You are light and love. But it's also very easy for a person not to believe it. So how do we help somebody like build that back?
Yeah, let's talk about resilience and self-compassion.
Okay.
So, resilience, to build resilience, you need resistance. You need to be faced with challenges and remember that each challenge is an opportunity to grow, to get stronger. Just like going to the gym and lifting heavy weights, we need that to build resilience. And we need to go to the gym. You can't go to the gym 12 hours and just be done for the year. It doesn't work that way. It's going to the gym every day or 3 times a week, 5 times a week. It's those daily consistencies. It's the same thing with being faced with daily challenges or weekly or monthly. We were talking about car issues earlier before we started recording. There are opportunities every time you're faced with your car breaking down or something not working out or a piece of equipment breaking down or a car accident. These are opportunities for us to show up and be resilient despite of these external forces. And we need it. I'm telling you, we need it. We think we want an easy life, but what we actually want is the strength to handle the life that we want. And to do that, we have to be faced with challenges. So allowing yourself to build resilience in those opportunities and then self-compassion. I mean, you may be hard on others, but I know you're probably really hard on yourself. And you probably don't even let people know that you're hard on yourself because we don't want to show that part of ourselves, to show that vulnerability. But I think most of us really struggle with this idea of we're not enough and we're not where we want to be. And I always think about this book, The Gap and the Gain, which is by Dan Sullivan and Benjamin Hardy. And it's this idea of measuring yourself about where you have come from versus where you are going. So when we fall short, we can be so quick to judge ourselves against the gap, where we think we should be versus where we are. But this is why we have to measure ourselves against the gap, against the gain instead of against the gap, because we don't want to measure ourselves against somewhere we've never been before. And I think this is so crucial. We have this idea of what a parent should look like, but have you been a parent before? You have an idea of what a real estate agent with 2 years under their belt should look like. But Anike, have you been a real estate agent with 2 years under your belt before? No, absolutely not. And so we need to look back in reflection and give ourselves some compassion and measure our progress based on how far we've come and not the ideal that we have imaginarily pictured for ourselves.
Yeah, it's like the glasses half empty versus the glasses half full type of mentality. And it's also just super important to have this mindset because your experience that you have in the past, which is your gain, gives you confidence for the future. And we just finished our fear series, but a lot of fear comes from lack of experience. Once you've done something, then all of a sudden you have more confidence that you can do it again, or you can tweak it and be better. And so, but you can't tweak it and be better. You can't measure yourself if you've never done it. And so it's so important to look back, like you said, to the gain instead of looking at something you've never done before, but you can take your experience and take it to where you're going.
Absolutely. This reminds me a little bit of the conversation we were having with our other sister, Johanna, about when you get a little bit older and you have a little more experience under your belt, you have a little more confidence in what you are saying and how to take those lessons and apply them and share advice, right? So we often shame ourselves because we don't know what to do and we haven't experienced this thing yet. Well, what have you experienced? Where have you grown? Where have you gained knowledge? And the more you allow yourself to assess and reflect, the more confident you'll be in the present and the more resilient you will be to face more obstacles. And hopefully, the more compassionate you will be when those don't go the way you want.
Yes, and your experience gives you more self-esteem. If we're to this is what's so powerful is if you remember your self-worth, you remember that you are perfect the way you are internally of light and love, that is your self-worth that's separate. But if you remember that, then you can take that over to the self-esteem area and help you gain experience, help you have the courage to try new things, to then get more experience, to then have more self-esteem because the more experience, the more that we try, the more that we fail, the more that we practice, the more that we put ourselves out there, the more our self-esteem will get better and better and better. And there's lots of tools we could do to build that self-esteem, but it first has to start with remembering your self-worth to fuel that self-esteem. So just in short, self-worth never changes. This is innate. This is who you are. You are light and love. Self-esteem ebbs and flows, and it can change based off of circumstances and life experiences. So, Bretagne, for now that we've identified these, how do we coach ourselves through this?
Yes. So I love that you summarized. I think that's really important. If you are starting to feel like you are struggling and you feel like you are failing, I have a three-prong process that may sound familiar. I call it stop, drop, and roll. Because even though you may not be on fire in real life, you are suffering, you are going through a traumatic experience that is causing trauma and will leave emotional scars if you don't stop, drop, and roll. So stop and notice what your self-talk is. Are you saying or thinking something like, you're an idiot, how could you have done that? Or are you constantly replaying the events of a previous conversation or experience or interaction? And you're like, oh, did I really say that? Did I really do that? So, first, stop and acknowledge your self talk. Second, drop the negative talk. So, once you acknowledge, all right, I think I'm an idiot. I can't believe I did that. We're going to stop and we have to break that pattern. And as we've talked in other episodes, breaking that pattern can be as simple as creating movement in your body, right? Change your physiology, change your life. Thank you, Tony Robbins. So, maybe put on some music, a dance, drink some water, just create a different state so that you can take your external influence and allowed it to change your internal influence. And then the last step is roll out and reframe. So take a deep breath in and a deep breath out and say, this doesn't define my worth. I am enough. And you say that over and over and over again. Because if you're going to have a repetitive thought, let's make it a positive one. This doesn't define my worth. I am enough. And to help get in the practice, I always encourage people because it can feel a little awkward, coaching yourself and trying to reframe your brain. But what is not awkward, Anike, is helping a friend. And so I always imagine, what if my friend is coming to me and saying, oh my gosh, I can't believe I did this thing and I am so embarrassed and I can't stop thinking about it and it's keeping me up. What would you tell your friend to do? You would tell them that they're being silly, that they're okay. They didn't do anything wrong. Shake it off. Let it roll off your back. You are a wonderful person. You're not an idiot. And so imagine what you would tell a friend and the amount of love and light that you would pour into someone else and allow yourself to pour it back into you.
Yeah, and the stop, drop, and roll exercise is also very good for parents to teach their kids because we're already teaching them stop, drop, and roll. Like if you're on fire, if that's a situation that you're in, and you can apply this for their self-esteem too. I mean, my kids have said a couple times like, "Oh, I'm so stupid," and I'm like, "No, you're not. Be nice to yourself." But it's easy for a mother or a father to combat that and say, no, like, I love you, I believe in you, you're so special. But they need to coach themselves. And so this is a very empowering tool, Britannia. So I really appreciate you bringing it up, that if you stop and recognize what you're saying, pay attention to your thoughts, and remember that your thoughts lie to you, and then drop the negative talk, just drop it. And you are not stupid. Maybe you made a stupid decision because you're human, and that's okay, but that doesn't define you. That doesn't change your worth. It could temporarily nudge your self-esteem, but only if you tell it to. If you're saying I am, that is a creation word. So you want to just change the way. So the role is reframing it. This does not define my worth. I am who I am. I am smart. I am beautiful. I am worthy. Even if I make dumb decisions sometimes, that's okay, but that's not who I am. So I love that you brought this up. It's something I'm going to implement with my kids because it's so easy to remember. Stop, drop, and roll.
Exactly. Stop, drop, and roll. And remember that your self-worth and your self-esteem are not the same thing. It's normal to feel down if you don't hit the mark, but don't think for a second that you are not this magical, powerful, amazing human that just makes the world a better place existing in the world. And that does not change because you didn't achieve what you wanted to achieve or show up the way you wanted to show up or say what you wanted to say. Your worth is innate and you are beautiful just the way you are. This has been another episode of the Be Your Own Life Coach podcast. If you found value in today's conversation, subscribe and share the love. And remember the teachings of Lao Tzu. When I let go of what I am, I become what I might be. Until next time, trust yourself, take the wisdom, take the breath, and take the next step.